Hello, welcome everyone. Today we are in the new panel of new generation entrepreneurship. I have very valuable speakers here. They are all actually startup or entrepreneurs experts. We are going to talk about what is new generation entrepreneurship means and the situation of our country and how what we can do for the future and what we should do. And 2021 is actually a good year to talk in a panel like that because, of course, because of the pandemic, we are a bit down maybe, but in terms of entrepreneurship, it is we have broken many records actually in this sense, and our panelists will also touch these issues, I think. Especially Mr. Shine in the especially entrepreneurship in MENA region. He has researched a lot on this issue, both for the private sector and public sector attempts on this issue actually have brought some fruitful results, we can say. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you our speakers. And I will also recommend that to introduce themselves in their speeches too. The first speaker, of course, is actually Aslı Kubilay. Miss Aslı Kubilay have worked in different organizations, in companies, in both in abroad and in the country, and she took the green pill and being an entrepreneurship expert. Now she is working in-store experience digitalization, and she has an entrepreneurship in this issue. And she will talk about that. And Ali Servet Çayıboğlu, the other speakers, he's an old friend for me. In 8 years, he has made two exits in the area. And one of them is Mary, and the other is English Ninjas. It is where his startup is also a new one. He is also an angel investor. And Ahmet Kırtok, he has worked abroad for several years, and he also made an exit in New York and in Turkey now. He has he is the chair of the strategy of the Teknasyon company. Serkan Ünsal, I think he is a very familiar figure for us, for all of you. He is the founder of Startups Watch. He was also an entrepreneur, and then he has started research and providing reports on this issue so that he can reflect all this experience. And according to his reports now, we can also learn the entrepreneurship sector in Turkey. Now, first of all, in entrepreneurship, as you all know, in the old way of entrepreneurship consideration, we have lots of entrepreneurs. Yes, it's maybe because of the experience of the artisanship, maybe, but it is something. Yes, we have a mentality of an artisan or a small store owner. Of course, it is a bit different from the context we have been accustomed to in terms of globalization potential. So we would like to talk about what is new generation entrepreneurship, what does it mean, which areas include more these new generation entrepreneurship, and what are the attractive areas in this area for the investors, and what are the differentiation points of these issues. Ms. Aslı, can we start from your speech? Yes. My name is Aslı. Microphone, please. Aslı Kubilay. You have also already introduced me. I have worked in institutional startup. I had a lot of experience on this issue for 3 years now, especially in 2022. It will be 4 years. I am one of the founders of Shopee, founding partners of Shopee. What is new generation entrepreneurship, actually? I think there are more than one definitions for defining it. It is engineering, innovation, being agile for that, justice or being fair, lots of concepts. But one of the most important of this concept is actually is engineering and innovation, especially for the if we have a look from the geography we are living in, the generation before that actually, or the entrepreneurs actually were producing here and selling the things they have produced to the consumers here actually. That was their journey. But now we see that it's not enough. Producing in Turkey and selling it in Turkey or only addressing Turkish markets is not enough. So not for assessment, not for competitiveness. So it's not adequate for all these issues. So for the engineering and innovation, dimensions should be developed seriously so that you can compete in global markets in a global, so that you can make yourselves in the global entrepreneur. So in the competitiveness, of course, so that you can have a place in this competitive market. And of course, being agile, fair, democratization, these are new concepts which are defining new generation entrepreneurship, I can say. We can always, what does all this concept mean? Of course, you cannot stand on your foot if you are not agile, or you have to be fast to adapt yourself into this transformation. And for the institutional or structural skills are needed to make yourself in a to behave in the fast way. So it also has a social impact. So in the old world, of course, with big investments in these old world, the consumers, companies, or individual consumers have these technologies, but these new generation entrepreneurship provide them a new chance. It provides a huge opportunity for democratization and also creating a social benefit, I can say. So for new generation entrepreneurs, we can say that agility, democratization are important concepts that differentiate this issue from the older or former generation of entrepreneurships. Thank you. The floor is yours. Hello. Thank you so much, Mr. Murat. And I think for 15 years, I have been dealing with solving some problems in this area. I am a profile of entrepreneur in this field. Actually, at the end of the day, our work is to detect the problems. So, according to me, the new generation entrepreneurship is focusing on solving the problems. And if for the traditional entrepreneurship, all examples actually are only focusing on having benefits. Of course, we can say how our families always say that all stories in the area, Denizli, Gaziantep, Kayseri, these are entrepreneur cities, we can say, but they all focus on profit, like textile factories, some industry organizations. Most of them, at the end of the day, do not solve a problem. They, for example, produce a product from a raw material or provide an interim material, or it is something the category, as you have also mentioned, like having the mentality of an artisan. We can say, for example, a coiffeur or a small store or a market owner. But today we are in a very different point now. There are concepts which is filling in this new generation entrepreneurship definition, is that to be focused on solving the problem. So the important tool in solving that is technology, of course, or having the mentality or a mindset for solving the problems is actually the new generation entrepreneurship. This is the thing we do actually. What we do actually for one of my recent work, people are learning English for years actually, or learning a foreign language for years, for long years, but learning a language was always defined as going to a school or getting a physical education. But at the end of the day, the solution we have provided is something actually the internet technology for this issue. It makes it possible for this opportunity. For example, you can work with a teacher from abroad and on an online class. So if you do not have this technology infrastructure, you cannot be a new generation entrepreneur. You will only maybe open an English course at a building. So this is the new generation entrepreneurship, I can say. So as a profile, as Aslı also said, having a global mindset is another characteristic features of new generation entrepreneurship. In not only for their city or for their country, to address in a global context is something again possible with technology, of course. So in different sectors, what do we pronounce mostly? We don't say health, we say health technology area. We don't say finance, we say finance technologies area. So new generation entrepreneurs are all trying to solve the problems in this area. So the most important added value of this concept is actually, I think, transforming many sectors and industries. So, for example, metaverse, for example, or artificial reality, or they're all different dimensions. They are all technological infrastructures which are actually immediately transforming the whole industry or shape it. So this is just only possible, I think, by having a mindset of having a new generation entrepreneurship mind. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. First of all, thank you so much. I would like to also extend my thanks to the Capital Markets Board. This is one of the panel. It is a hybrid one. It is for the first time for me to be in a panel like that. Thank you for that. I am actually an entrepreneur from the core. I have no entrepreneurs in my family. You know, for marriage, it's not so preferable. People do not prefer their daughters to be married to someone else, an entrepreneur. I had a scholarship in America, and I have met internet there, and it influenced me a lot. And I understood that the future is internet and the digital world. So since these years, I have been dealing with internet and digitalization. In USA, I have both worked in a state organization like COSGAP, and I also founded my own startup in 20 years ago in Texas. And after my first startup, then I started working with other brands, our huge brands and other startups. So I also had the chance of the fast evolving digital.com sector actually. So for the globalization, as our friends also mentioned, I understood this concept. So when I came in Turkey after these long years, I have been both in the consulting area in these issues and both for the entrepreneurship. And I have joined into a company which growth in an immediate and fast way, I can say. Thank you. So before passing to Mr. Sarkan, and he mentioned about Kayseri, so I would like to talk about that. Ali Servet is from Elazığ, so new generation entrepreneurs are from Elazığ, we can say. Servet? Yes, I said that. Of course, all entrepreneurs are precious, but there's sometimes a confusion, and I can see in the meetings in our Turkey, every entrepreneur in this area cannot be called as a new generation entrepreneur. The one who use technology, the ones who provides a solution for a problem, especially with the help of the technology, the one who can communicate the solution. And of course, with the pandemic, of course, we are in a point that every entrepreneurs from every corner of the world are working on this issue. So, on the other hand, Mr. Ahmed also talked about some small business administration, and the similar organization in Turkey is COSGAP. And for example, Silicon Valley, the first core of Silicon Valley actually started with a matching fund, actually, or an investor puts one and the small business puts two. So in the investment, so Turkey is very active. So COSGAP chair Hasan Basri is very actually eager to expand the area. I was on a meeting also where the COSGAP chairs and the Ministry of Industry also participated, and they all have discussions about how we can develop these issues, this sector. And I would like to ask to Mr. Serkan about how our entrepreneurship ecosystem developed in Turkey. Or hello everyone, I lost the beginning of the actually speech, but I have heard the question, yes, but I just couldn't listen, Miss Aslı. I am also a startup founder. I think it has been 6 years. There was a data inadequacy in the area, and in June 2015, I have worked in institutional life for 15 years. So I can define new generation entrepreneurship like that. My close friends told startup that the entrepreneurs who want to be a monopoly, actually, to be a monopoly and to rule the world, for example. But then they can deny that they don't want to be like that. But they have to start the journey to be a monopoly, I think, because what does it mean? We always talk about getting milk or bread from a store, but now to sell it to the world as a whole is only an opportunity created by Getir, the company of Turkish Interpreters Note. So I am in this ecosystem. In 2010, for example, we have been working with VCs from the angel. We are a system which is getting investments from angel investors, which started with Marcofoni and Trendyol in 2012. And in addition to that, for the global ecosystem, we didn't have a lot of startups in 2015, between 2015 and 2017. It is like a learning period for all of us, both for the investors, for our angel investors, both for entrepreneurs. But after 2017, we now had a more experienced BCs who were creating their second startups. Trendyol, we had started to hear new entrepreneurs in 20. We have, it is a huge metric. We have 20, in 22, 23 months, we have seen unicorns actually. So you can be a unicorn in this area, in this country. So it shows that location is not so important in this sense. And pandemic also made it clear, actually, because the investors in Silicon Valley also can address to Africa market, Chinese markets, or they have learned that if we do not enter into that areas, it will also crash us, they said. So from peak games, our exits, our unicorns are increasing. We have datacorns. And so I think we had another shift in 2010 with BC's angel in networks were included into the ecosystem. Now we are having a new shift. And now the entrepreneurs who are thinking in a big picture are increasing. And now I don't remember the real figures, but we have 7 VCs made on at least one exit. So we have exit experiences now. And everything looks very beautiful actually, but what is the bad side? Because of FOMO impact, many investments can be made, but people can be frustrated. But our ecosystem is developing in a very best way, I can say. Thank you, Mr. Sarkan. Actually, in a global context, we have actually a structure of unicorn, for example, one out of 100 companies. It's like a funnel, it's like a cone. So maybe 50% or 60% of them will not be in the ecosystem after 10 years, but all of them are creating a huge experience. So most of them are learning from the unsuccessful investments or entrepreneurship experiences. And as I said, thank you, Mr. Sarkan, for your views. The ecosystem looks well now. So, for the second tour of questions, as you all know, there are many entrepreneurs or startups in this area from different sectors. Starting the journey about being a monopoly is good, okay, but only 1% of them can be a unicorn, and only 10% of them can have a specific growth. So, scaling is important, growing these companies is important. In terms of scaling, let's talk about that. How unicorn, we say Turkon, for example, in Turkey, there are $1 million companies, for example, how they can turn into a $1 million company, how they can grow their business, which areas they should pay attention to. So, and also by talking about that, for the what is the impact of the pandemic on this issue, I would like to talk about that. Let's start with Miss Aslı. Thank you. Um, Actually, we are always talking about $1 million companies. We have some companies in our country too, but it is it is a bit challenging, or there are many entrepreneurs who are starting the journey to be a $1 million company. We all have the eagerness and ambition for that. Without them, of course, you cannot start the journey, of course, but in the journey, you also see that we can see the examples in our country too. We have very beautiful, we have many successful entrepreneurs and startups who are not $1 million companies, but very successful. So with huge scaling, or we have, for example, they can be a 100 million a dollar company, for example, with the valuation of them. So, how is it possible? The B2B and B2C are having differentiations on this issue. I am coming from B2B area, so I know the homework of B2B. So, for doing your homework, I think both sides shall do everything on their responsibility, and inadequate homework will give you an inadequate valuation. So, for financial discipline, it is also of utmost importance, because in order to reach these high valuations in a huge competitive environment, you have to fast and you have to behave and move fast and move in the proper way. So you have to, while running for this purpose, you have to follow in a strict way this financial discipline. So, in this high competitive and high acceleration environment, and doing your homework, marketing, sales in the global context, global scale, global costs, and global marketing and global operation costs, working all of them by running in the fastest way, the things you have to do in this formulation is, of course, to progress, to run fast, and to look ahead. And what pandemic added to these purposes, and which costs we have earned for reaching this valuation, for being a global company, our way is way more than open, I can say. From my company, I can say, in the pandemic, we were a company who were performing global sales to the global market. Of course, we have marketing personnel. We always visiting them in a regular basis. Then the pandemic occurred, and especially for us, the in-store digitalization, for example, for a company like us, it was like a shock, of course. But after that, like as every entrepreneur, every successful entrepreneurs and startups has the agile behavior, we have created an impossible transformation actually, and in both without being physically available in the global markets, to create business, to develop business, and to make global market sales is something we have developed in this area in the fastest way. Today, both from our office, both from the whole of our home, without moving even, we can attend to global networking events. We can do we can have huge opportunities to create communication with the customers or create businesses. Yesterday, I was talking someone from sales world, and we know that how social is the sales world, and is it a loss for us because we are not in this environment? They said that pandemic is our best friend. So both in this homework, the financial discipline, innovation, technology, developing global costs, and pandemic actually created an acceleration point for us to reach these valuation point targets. Turkey and the entrepreneurs in Turkey are also uh, adapting to this journey in the fastest way. I think we are doing so. We are not a company who is $100 million worth, but I think we will reach to this target. And actually, I maybe in this other point I can say there are some basic foundation stones, I can say. First of all, the skills pool is important for your startup. If you want your startup to be successful in global arena, you have to have a team which is suitable for this mission. Otherwise, you cannot be successful in this area. First of all, the critical people in the staff shall speak English, for example, so that you can be open to the global markets. This is a very basic rule. If your general manager or deputy general manager or your founder partner cannot speak English, it will be a huge problem in terms of global markets, or for your sales staff. If they don't do it, we can talk about that. I have in two of my exit story, for example, it was a pure local business, and we sold it into a unicorn to a global market. We have seen that how they manage it. So one of the lessons I learned for the second startup was actually starting in the global context. It helped me a lot for Open English, for example. It is a worldwide company. You witness it closely, actually, and every time you say that, that's why they can do it like that. That's why they are successful. I can say that we are proud of that. For example, Getir is very important for all of us. And this is also important for us. The thing that the Getir, for example, is the most famous one in the success. So the skill pools in your company shall be suitable for your journey, for your overseas journey, of course. And secondly, and of course, it's not possible with that, of course, access to money, of course. At the end of the day, if you do not you have to access enough resources for you. If you do not have the fuel, you cannot set out the road for the journey. For example, let me make this comparison. Yes, let's say that you set the sales. You want to go to Ayvalık. You have a fuel, a specific amount of fuel. If you foresee that your fuel will not be enough for the long journey, you say that we can get fuel on the road, but the local approach can help you about giving you this confidence. But for the overseas journey, even if you want to go to Midilli, for example, you have to get this fuel. So in Turkey, as Serkan also mentioned, at a certain point, we have taken a huge step, a great leap actually, in 2010, for example. We also got our first investment from a fund abroad, and funds were not so developed in Turkey. But now, at the point, yes, funds have a specific power, but these funds do not also again have enough funds for carrying Turkish entrepreneurs and startups to the global arena actually. And many funds do not have mentality or perspective so that they can channel their reserves for this aim. So what can the entrepreneurs do? You shall seek for these funds abroad. So it is actually, you need a serious network experience, I can say. The staff, access to capital, and third, network. And network is precious in every dimension, of course. If you want to scale your company idea in the global scale, you both have to know people who are in the global markets. You can do it, and you shall know what are your competitors doing in the world. So I always say that the entrepreneurs, the funding partners, one of them must absolutely have to, by keeping all the workload aside, shall have a wider perspective to follow the world or travel. Or the insider, for example, is another successful example, I can say, because I know the experience closely. One of the founder partners of Insiders always actually is mostly abroad and spending his time abroad. So skills, capital, and a serious network is needed for that.
Katılıyorum.
I totally agree with your comments. Of course, you've also, in a way, alluded to us saying that you need capital. Yes, as a representative of the funding sector, as you know, this is the reason why we have the capital markets. Of course, the further we develop, the further it's going to be a self-sufficient cycle with 360 degrees. The more companies we have emerging from Turkey, the more people will show interest in Turkey in the back of their minds. So the more we have such companies established and the more experience we have, in my humble opinion, in the period of 2022 and 2025, I think that the records that we had in the year 2021 will be advanced further. I think that was a very important point that you highlighted. Yes, you both touched upon very important points, especially up until 1 or 2 years ago. The major problem in Turkey was the lack of investors. In Turkey, I have a lot of friends who invest in internet startups. Most of them come from finance industry or they previously had an exit themselves. So when it comes to the global platform in the developed countries, investors had access to higher level of funding, and we didn't have this in Turkey. And I think that also because of the traditional outlook in Turkey, we see that even though many entrepreneurs had very good ideas and teams, they couldn't have access to the funds because they were asked to issue invoices, etc. But you see that many technological brands on a global scale started to issue invoices for many years after they were established. So they survived thanks to angel and venture capitals. In the recent years, we have seen these billion-dollar, these unicorn exits. And I believe that these are, of course, raising the appetites of the industrialists and other investors. So I think this is going to be better in the future. So what's the major problem in Turkey? In Turkey, the biggest problem in the past was to access investment from a perspective of investor. But now the problem is going to be to access the talent. So as Servet said, we have people who think globally, who speak very good English, who can do business on a global scale. In that sense, we have some shortcomings. And people who are above the bar are unfortunately lost abroad. There is a brain drain. So I work as a member of faculty at university now. All of my students who call me ask for a reference to apply abroad, to apply to companies abroad. This is the biggest problem. If we cannot hold this generation in Turkey, we are not going to be able to talk about the Turkish ecosystem. We will say Eren Bey had $1 billion exit in the US. He is a Turk. We are proud of him. We will say Devrim, he established SuperPeer, etc. So we are going to talk about the Turks who have been successful abroad. So as a person who lived abroad for many years and who returned to Turkey, I have an emotional outlook on this. I went to several universities in Anatolia for many years. As a person who comes from a modest background from Adana, I've been able to reach the success. So I see the spark. Every day I see all these kids want to go abroad. How can we keep this generation in Turkey? How can they prevent them from losing their hopes? Once we solve this problem, I think we have a great perspective ahead of us because we have really bright minds, especially with the abolition of the borders thanks to the pandemic. I think it's going to be easier to access the funds. Also in recent periods, we have this crowdfunding model. And I think along with the new laws, we also have such projects in Turkey. So when it comes to crypto and blockchain, the crowdfunding models have brought incredibly good results. So there are two young friends in Anatolia. They have a great website. They are very hardworking. They can just go on global platforms. They can fund themselves on global crowdfunding platforms and establish their startups. These are very exciting developments, but somehow we need to make sure the current generation stays in Turkey. Otherwise, we will only talk about the success stories of Turks who are abroad. And as the veterans of this industry, we will say, back in the day, we used to have entrepreneurship in Turkey. So this really saddens me. Thank you so much. That's a very important point that you touched upon. I might be a bit more optimistic than you. I share your concerns. You also worked abroad for many years. I also worked abroad for a long time. So I worked in one of the top three companies in the world. I worked there in the marketing department for many years. Of course, that was a great experience for me. And I believe that all of our colleagues who now go abroad will have great experience. Of course, you need to limit this. You need to have programs and policies. For this purpose, we need to support these kids. But when you look at it from the positive side, for example, I really was looking forward to come back to Turkey, even though I was living in one of the best cities in the world while enjoying a great, wealthy way of living in one of the greatest companies in the world. But unfortunately, there is always something missing. And I'm sure that they will also discover this. I believe that after a certain period of time, a great part of time will come back to Turkey, just as we have come back to our country. Yes, the people who have the possibilities or the opportunities or who create their own possibilities need to study and gain work experience abroad. What I say is that there are now a lot of people who cut all the ties, who burn the bridges, and they don't want to come back. This is what I'm talking about. But I know that if there are better conditions in Turkey, most of them would like to come back. Yes, Sarkan, you talked about the scaling in the first round, but as you said in recent period, when it comes to the unicorns, we had a lot of records. What would you like to say about this and about the overall condition in Turkey? Yes, when it comes to the scaling, the sector that has solved this problem in the West is the game industry. Especially our initiatives in the gaming industry are able to test their games. In many countries, as of the first day, there is a certain mathematical background of it. There is lifetime value. So if the lifetime value exceeds the cost, then they can enter that country. They spend most of their budgets in their country. So this brings about the following advantage. I think I'm hearing myself. Yes, we hear you very well. That's great. Yes, now it's better. So let me put it this way. It's very difficult to do this in other industries. So on day one, Spain, Canada, Brazil, Singapore are not the countries where you can have your product tested. Maybe you can do this on the digital market, but the gaming industry is completely digital. Of course, as compared to the other industries, it's much easier to scale the game industry as compared to other sectors. That's the reason why we had dream games and ground games. So this is a great advantage. And because they see this advantage, within the last 1.5 years, in Turkey, 150 game studios were established in Turkey. Of course, the fact that Peak was sold, Dream Games had significant growth, and Rolik was sold. So all of these actually raised the appetite of many people. Roughly speaking, 150 game studios have been established in Turkey, according to our research. After London, when it comes to the quantitative side, Istanbul is the city with the highest number of game studios in Europe. So you have Rovio and Zynga. These are very big game studios, of course. The ones in Turkey are much smaller. There are just a few people. But in terms of the number of studios, we rank the second after London. So when it comes to the other industries, the industry which can apply it vertically is SaaS. So if you have a web software, you can easily scale it as compared to the other industries. We need to transfer our experience there. So when it comes to B2B, it's a bit more difficult, of course. You gave the example of Insider. When you look at the example of Insider, it's about acting multinationally. You assign a country manager in that country. It takes some time, but Insider did a very good job. And my hope is that, so 3 years ago, you weren't able to find a software developer who worked for a unicorn. It wasn't possible to find a business developer who worked for a unicorn. But now we have business developers or software developers who even worked in Decacorn. I really rely on the spin-offs. So you saw how Getir became a global company. A person who saw this is going to establish another venture, and they're going to scale it. Somebody who left Trendyol will see how things work in Decacorn. They will also establish a different entrepreneurship. And thanks to the spin-off effect, I think we will have a higher number of unicorns and decacorns in the next 5 to 6 years. And I think they will also be better at scaling as compared to us, because they've seen it in practice on site. They've seen it in the companies where they worked for. So when it comes to scaling, I think the upcoming period will be very bright. But as Ahmet said, yes, we have a shortcoming in terms of talent. Of course, it's not possible to have a complete solution for this. Of course, the policies are needed. If people who escape the country are high in number, you also need to have an equal amount of input. So the best software developers in Syria or Azerbaijan can perhaps work in Turkey. Maybe they can get it arranged in one day. So we need to pave the way for them as well. Yes, I totally agree with Serkan. On a global scale, I can give you an example from myself. When you see how things are done in a big company, it's very valuable. But being there from the startup, from day one, it makes a big difference. So in the UK, the US, Germany, France, India, China, and Turkey, in the run-up to becoming a unicorn, of course, there are things that everybody is doing the same. Of course, we have common practices and conventions, but every country has their own way of doing business. In that sense, Serkan has touched upon very important points. Yes, having a unicorn or a decacorn today here is very valuable. So the people who worked in the run-up to becoming a unicorn or decacorn can have spin-off companies, or they work in other positions. So I think this is going to have an acceleratory effect. It's going to drive this acceleration. So talking about the entrepreneurship of the new generation, very interesting things are happening. Globally, we have, for example, Facebook, which ranked amongst the top brands, but they changed their name. They changed their brand name. So this is something that will make brand specialists lose their sleep. So very different things, unexpected things are happening. It looks like time has accelerated. So people who previously wanted to see you face to face now offer you, please don't come. So of course, perhaps this has caused some problems in the transport industry in terms of commuting. Of course, this accelerates things a lot at the end of the day. something you used to do in 1 month can now be done in 1 day or a few hours. So with a futuristic approach, what do you think about the future of entrepreneurship? So when you look at the new era business models, how are the customers and investors going to be influenced? It looks like we have very little time left. We have only 10 minutes, so please keep it concise. So thank you once again, Mert. Well, when we talk about the future of new generation entrepreneurship, of course, I would like to look at it from this geography where we currently are located. I'd like to give priority to this geography. So as our colleagues have said, within geography or within Turkey, I think we see very positive developments in the ecosystem. We have entrepreneurs who exited, re-entered the ecosystem. The VCs have become a bit more mature in terms of the investments that they make. So for Turkey, I think I don't think the future is very negative. On the contrary, I think the future is more positive. Of course, we have a lot of progress to make. Why can we not be as agile, as innovative, as technologically mature as Israel? Why shouldn't we have such an environment as in Israel? Of course, we have such entrepreneurship activities, but unfortunately, they do not yet influence the whole ecosystem. So why not? Why can we not have this transformation? So perhaps the entrepreneurs who exit the ecosystem can re-enter and they can have a warmer opinion of new initiatives, and the VCs can show more initiative, they can take more initiatives. So when you look at it from a futuristic perspective, there is an interesting point of view. So the entrepreneurs start out in order to solve an existing problem. When they set out to solve that problem, they have a dream, and around this dream, they develop their business model. For example, we talked about metaverse. In the past, we had Facebook, Instagram, or I'm also including such brands. So once such dreams become business, especially from a futuristic perspective, for them to be commercially successful, they really need quite some time. So I think we will wait and see. We will see what happens. We will see what will emerge from this metaverse. Of course, in future, the new generation entrepreneurship is awaited by new values such as sustainability, regenerative technologies. So such parameters, such concepts will really determine how the future unfolds. But I think, right, we are living in the moment, we dream for the moment, we dream for our future, but the way in which it's going to mature, the way in which the commercial organization will be shaped depends on the time and on the changing conditions. So for that reason, one of the most important muscles of the new generation entrepreneurship should be used. You need to be agile, you need to be open to transformation, and you need to be rapid. And I think they are really going to make a difference in the future of the new generation entrepreneurship as the world evolves, as these new generation entrepreneurs are able to adapt to the world. They will have new opportunities. That's the case in our country and in the world. So 30 or 40 years ago, we didn't even think about these concepts, but now we face this climate crisis. We have food crisis, water crisis that await us. So these will stay with us in the future. These are realities that will be here in the future. How are we going to adapt to this? How will these turn into meaningful entrepreneurship? Or how are the existing enterprises going to combine these with more socially inclusive concepts? We will see how this unfolds. Actually, there is a very nice saying about this. It says the future is now. So I really like the saying. We are actually living in the now. We see the future. And with our rapid and agile muscles, the more we adapt to the change, the more we are successful. And I think that's how I can comment on the future as an entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Yes, when you look at it from the perspective of the industry, how the new generation entrepreneurs will prevail in future, in which fields they will have new initiatives. So, of course, I think the main challenges will be the problems brought about by the energy issues and the climate change. So we see that many entrepreneurs also develop projects in international arena. They set up projects in these verticals. So especially when it comes to this carbon release or carbon emissions, the position of this vertical will become more and more important because it's going to have some sanctions for everyone, for all the countries. So if you think of all the sanctions that will emanate from these carbon emissions, I think that this will be one of the areas to watch in the upcoming period. I think this is going to be the most important category, energy problem, renewable energy enterprises, and also the other solutions that will be brought about in relation to air pollution, for example, will be important. When you look at the climate change report, we have really troublesome period awaiting us. I think this is going to be one of the main issues. Of course, blockchain already occupies a very important place in our lives. I don't think it's very futuristic anymore, but in the upcoming period, I think also in blockchain, we will see more and more solutions that will become part and parcel of our lives. So this is the industry side of things. Of course, when you look at the entrepreneur profile, the new generation entrepreneurs, when you look at them as a generation, of course, we will be seeing very different types of generations. For example, we have this famous Generation Z. That's the profile that we're talking about. I think their effect is going to be significantly distinctive. They are able to take many more risks as compared to other generations. They are really much more agile. They are more creative because so far, when you look at the entrepreneurs that have been active until now, most of them are not digital natives in terms of their profiles, but the future entrepreneurs will be digital natives and their world will be much more different than ours. And thirdly, we have the capital aspect of things. I think in the forthcoming periods, we will also see a much better picture when it comes to capital and funding, because talking specifically about Turkey, when you look at the capital, it's still being managed by the first generation or maximum by the second generation. But when you look at the capital that is now being managed by the Generation Z, will bring a much faster impetus, flexibility, and agility for the new generation entrepreneurship. I think that's really important. So when it comes to the Generation Z, of course, we are not Generation Z. Of course, they are now embarking on their careers in the business life. When we talk to them, they actually surprise us in certain senses because they are more justice oriented, they are more fair, they want to go towards the target, they have a bigger vision. Of course, we grew up in a period of poverty, but these kids are digital natives, they are mobile first people, so they didn't suffer from this period of shortages. So as Aslı said, they want to have social impacts. When they do something, they want to make it sustainable. They also want it to be socially impactful, but we are more practical. We always try to solve burning problems, and we had these issues in the back of our minds. But because they didn't suffer from that poverty or from this period of shortages, they don't want to compromise on anything. For example, throughout the world, there is an electric vehicle revolution. As of 2030, we won't have any cars that run on diesel anymore. So the new generation and the upcoming generation also demand this as consumers. So I'm very hopeful for the future. And I think in the coming 2 decades, the world is going to go through a very positive transformation. Yes, I agree with you 100% on the big picture when it comes to sustainability and global warming. Yes, these are very burning topics. We have a bad legacy, unfortunately, that we left behind. That's not controversial. So metaverse because of Facebook is a very controversial topic right now as well. But we already had a lot of advance in that regards. For example, we have this game company called Roblox. They already seized this current generation in their fist. But when I think of the future, when I think of what's going to excite me in the future, I can say that all the ways of doing business will be decentralized. And I think that the new generation is most excited by this. This is one of the biggest effects of the new generation. The blockchain technology is doing very disruptive things. You shouldn't only see it within cryptocurrency. For example, NFTs have become so popular in the recent periods. I think this is also a bit damaging if you look at the big picture in the blockchain world. I think this blockchain world will remove the boundaries. And the new generation, when it comes to entertainment, food and energy, they will totally change the infrastructure. It's already started to become very disruptive, but I think it will be even more exciting. And I think the new generation entrepreneurship will completely shift towards the blockchain platform. And I think that's very exciting. Yes, that's an incredible revolution, but it's partially silently occurring. Probably 99% of the global population are not aware of what's going on. When it comes to the payment tools, there is a market of $300 trillion. So it currently makes up $2 trillion of this whole sum. So it's not only about monetary, it's not only about the monetary share, but when it also comes to finding capital, for example, crowdfunding will be possible via blockchain. They will be able to collect funds throughout the world. Perhaps we are not mentally aware for it, or the legal frameworks are still lagging behind, but I think we're talking about something very strange. Of course, there is still a certain period of time till it becomes more mainstream. Yes, I agree with you. I think 99% of the population are not aware of what's happening. Of course, everybody is curious about this crypto and trading. Everybody wants to make money, but you shouldn't only look at blockchain in a financial perspective. This decentralized governance is something that's very exciting. It's about taking joint decisions so that the youngsters can take the correct steps. And I think that really, really open new doors. And this is something that really excites me in the new generation entrepreneurship. I would like to keep it short because we are running out of time. Yes, finally, we only have 2 minutes left, but Serkan, I would again like to ask you to talk a bit more about the future of the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Turkey. Yes, I will wrap it up very quickly. So this is the case for other countries as well, but also in Turkey, our new generation entrepreneurs are very lucky in the forthcoming period. Now, VCs are trying to differentiate themselves. They are doing their best to attract them. They say, come to us. So let me give you a new example. I think it was 2 days ago, a Turkish VC said, our term sheet is simpler, it's more beautiful, it protects you better. So I think we are going to see more and more of these offers coming from VCs, because now entrepreneurs can almost select their VCs. Of course, we don't have any VCs above Series B yet. We don't have any VCs that will become elevated to the global level. But when it comes to the seeding level, we see that the VCs are trying to differentiate themselves from one another. So I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, you might call me a bit traditionally minded, but I don't think we need yet another social network. Yes, when it comes to drought, when it comes to water problem, I think these are the issues that deserve our attention more. So I think when it comes to sustainability and deep technology, I would like to see more and more technologies in Turkey. So there is the following example in Metaverse. I think it was Zuckerberg. So in order to pet your dog digitally, a company is developing a sensor and they will invest in that company that enables you to pet your dog via a sensor. I don't think you need to be digital to pet your dog. I mean, you can just pet your dog in actuality, physically. I think we need to have new entrepreneurships that are more applicable to the global situation. I think we have enough investors, we have enough entrepreneurs, so this is more of an appeal from my side. Yes, we need more enterprises. Thank you so much. So We have now come to the end of our session. Thank you very much, our panelists. I would also like to thank the Turkish Capital Markets Association for giving us this opportunity. We are all hopeful for the future because this new generation entrepreneurship is advancing very rapidly in Turkey and the world. We have the technological infrastructure quickly developing. So I think that especially the generations that deserves our confidence, they will be much stronger. So I'm very hopeful for the future. So I also wish the